All right, now we're going to get into the DLMM. It's like the CLMM, but better. The dynamic liquidity market maker allows you to shape your liquidity and help you maximize your fee generation. It's got dynamic fees, flexible strategies. You can put in just one token if you wish. You don't have to put in a balanced deposit. You can use however much you'd like. And we'll talk about the zero slippage price bins here in a second. Let's go in here. What exactly is a bin? Well, a bin, simply put, is a container that holds liquidity. A bin can hold one token, two tokens, or no token at all. Once bins are created, they're created at fixed price points, and they don't move from that price point. We can see here token Y and token X. The active bin is the only bin that can have both tokens in it. So that's like that one bin is where the trading is happening. Okay. Now here in this more real example, we see UBTC and CBBTC. We've got CBBTC here in purple and WBTC in teal. This is the active bin. It's got some of both tokens in there. Once all of the CBBTC is sold for this in this particular bin, then the price will move to the next bin. It won't move until all of that is sold for the other. If, for example, this filled up with CBBTC, then the price would move down. That's how it works in the directions. And we can see all of these individual price points along the way. That's what those are. Now, when you're looking at this, you'll see this is a representation of your liquidity in the pool on top. Below, you'll see gray bars that it shows your liquidity plus everybody else's liquidity in that same pool. So you don't own the bins, you're sharing the bins with everybody else who has deposited into that pool, and they're never destroyed. Once they're created, they live on the blockchain forever. Even if they are used, it doesn't matter. They exist forever. Okay, so now we got to talk about bin step. That is, simply put, the difference in price from one bin to the next. Okay, it uses basis points, and there's different bin steps possible. This specific one is a one bin step pool. It's the smallest possible. One bin step means one basis point. That's 0.0001. Okay, the math is simple. We take the current price and then we multiply it by 1 plus the basis points. So 1.0001, and then we get the next price, the next bin. You want to go down, just use division. But that's it simply. Now, this is where a lot of people get hung up, and I have a lot of this information in the bootcamp resources. So if you need to review this, go on. We're going to keep going with this and give some more explanation on it. Here's another example of a bin step, a 50 bin step. We can see here in this particular pool, we have SOL and IO, and it's 0.01231. The price moved up 1, so we can see it is 0.01237. We did the math there. So the basis points. So the 50 bin step, each bin is wider than the one bin step. That single bin covers a larger price range. The larger the bin step, the more price range that it will cover. So we see here, you see the pattern, how this works, 100 bin steps, all this stuff. Here's a visual example of the difference between a large bin step and a small bin step. We see we have a price range of 169 to 169.25. This large bin step, it only required 2 bins to cover that difference in price. A smaller bin step is requiring 8 to cover that same amount in price. Why is that important? Why not have the same size for everything? Well, there's different reasons for that, and we're really going to kind of get into that. But the smaller the bin step, the more it can move, okay? So it takes more price action, more change in price in the large bin step for it to move from one bin to the other, because it's a greater difference in price, okay? This is more useful, say, on small ink, very volatile memes, what have you. Your smaller bin step is used more in, say, things like stables, more well-established tokens, that sort of thing, because those large bin steps, there's not enough price movement for that to work very well. So you need a smaller bin step for it to go through. Okay. So now bin steps and base fees on pools have a correlation. They're kind of tied together. You can't have, like, for example, here, a 5% base fee. You can't have that on a one bin step pool. It's just not possible. There's different configurations. This is not all of them. There's a lot out there. But what you need to understand, generally speaking, is the smaller the base fee, generally speaking, the smaller the bin steps are. A larger base fee is usually larger bin steps. There are some small exceptions to that, but not really. A lot of it is like that. Okay, so fee generation here, kind of just adding on to what we talked about a second ago. Each time you move from one bin to the next, that's like a fee event. It can actually trigger something called dynamic fees. The more it's moving through bins back and forth, the more that dynamic fee is triggered. It can go higher. And I'll show you guys dynamic fees here in a bit, but that's what that looks like. A lower bin step pool can capture more volume than a higher bin step, but sometimes you need that higher bin step in order to cover a greater range. Any swaps that happen within a single bin, there's no slippage for the trader, okay? And that makes it more attractive for, say, Jupiter to route that trade through your pool. And I hope that makes sense. You want your pool to be attractive in order to get trades to come through it. If there's no slippage, that's a good thing for the trader. And then in turn, it's a good thing for you. Smaller bin steps, there can be more slippage because it may have to move through more bins for that to happen. All right, so now we're going to get into shapes, DLMM strategies. This is one of the great things about the DLMM. Our first strategy, the basic, is spot. It's an even, uniform distribution. It's what any CLM out there that, like, you might find that on Orca and Radium, that's what they operate, the CLMM. It's even distribution across all the bins. We will see here, everything here in teal is Sol, and this, or actually USDC, Sol, whatever. It's an even distribution, okay? The curve, this is usually used to, in your more stable pools, is allowing you to focus that liquidity at a single point. Let's say you think that the price of USDC and Sol is going to stay right around here for a while. If you use that curve, you're focusing more of your liquidity right here. So this is max fee generation. The downside is if the price swings to the outsides, you're not earning as many fees because you don't have as much liquidity in those bins. There's less to trade with, so you earn less fees. We're getting max fee generation here at the top. The bid ask is the inverse of that. If you ever heard the term DCA, this is one thing that's been used. And one of the things that I try to remember or tell people about this is the bid ask is buy low, sell high. That's the idea here. So as the price goes down, you're buying more of the token at lower prices. And as it pumps, you're selling more of the token at higher prices. So trading, buy low, sell high. That's it, right? This is very commonly used in single-sided deployment, but you can use any of these with single-sided, meaning Sol only or the other token only. You can do that, okay? Now, you can stack strategies. Here's a common one, because if you remember earlier, whenever I said on the curve, when the price swings out here to the outside, you're not earning very many fees. Well, if you stack the spot and the curve together, what you're doing is you're adding a little bit more liquidity out here on the edges so that if the price does swing, you're still earning a bit in fees so that you're not just getting nothing out here on the swings. The same thing with the spot bid ask, because in a pure bid ask, here at the smallest point, you're getting almost nothing in fee generation. So by adding a layer of spot, you're able to get a little bit more fee generation.